Well, Faster Mike, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line. Alex in the chair with the open line through until 1 o'clock this Friday. Hope you're in fine fettle, enjoying the glorious weather that is set to continue. Obviously, make sure you slap the chip fat on. Be safe out there. Now, what would you like to talk about this afternoon? It is census weekend. Have you noticed the little error on the census letter? I'll tell you about that in a moment. Have you received your census letter? And what do you think the results of the census are going to show us? And carrying photo ID on the steam packet. Are we losing another bit of what makes Island life Island life? Okay, that and any other topic you want to talk about, 66 13 68 is the number to call. Ben is on the phones producing today. Give him a call, or you can send us a text to 166 177. But I mentioned it there. Yeah, what do you feel about having to carry photo ID when travelling via the steam packet? Now, the Department of Home Affairs, which is consulting on the matter, says it could help strengthen the island's borders. And have you filled in the consultation? It doesn't ask you whether you want it or not, just telling you, asking you what you feel is the best way to introduce it. Now, historically, people travelling via the Isle of Man steam packet haven't had to provide identification as a condition of carriage. So we've been speaking to the steam packet's managing director, Brian Thompson, about all manner of issues this morning, but he gave us his thoughts on the consultation.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think from our perspective, it's something that you can see politically amongst the public that they're sort of crying out for. And for us as well, it's good to know that the person booked on the ferry is the person that's arriving. So we'll go with whatever the consultation results are, and if we have to check IDs, we will.
It won't cause too many problems, not much faff at the ports, as it were?
I think it will cause a bit of faff, and that's sort of where we come in and need to try and organise it. I think for us it would be better if it was a sort of random check rather than check every single person. But I think having a requirement to carry the ID is probably the key.
Even something like a digital ID or a manned port, it's going to cost money eventually, isn't it? So are you seeing this potentially as something that the steam packet might have to invest in down the line?
Perhaps. Again, I think we'll need to wait for the results of the consultation and see exactly what that looks like. But we understand where it's came from and perhaps the need for it as well.
That's Brian Thompson, the steam packet managing director, speaking to our Lewis Foster there. So what's your thoughts on this? Okay, when it comes to travelling by ferry, having to have, mandatory ID checks. As they said there, part of a proportionate approach to ID verification. Not every passenger will be checked, but as Brian Thompson says there, it'll be a faff at the port. Now, is that going to make the travel experience even worse? And have you noticed in Douglas Harbour recently, this has been quietly snuck in, that when you're in Heysham, which isn't the most, photogenic of ports, let's be honest, or even in Liverpool, you do not have the new fencing that's been erected around Douglas Harbour with the rolls of barbed wire. And some of it's held on by ratchet straps on the Victoria Pier. We've done a high-quality job there. But it's beginning to look like a prison. Welcome to the Isle of Man and get past all these new high fences with rolls of barbed wire on it. I mean, what sort of port is that? Have we really got to that stage in the Isle of Man where we're having to have this? Do you think it's an overreaction, or is it a sign of the times and we can't get away from it, even with that stretch of water around us that separates us from the United Kingdom? I'd love to hear your thoughts. 66 13 68. Howard is first on the line this afternoon. Good afternoon, Howard. How are you?
Afternoon, Alex. It's a grand day.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? They're lovely out there.
I'm just sitting on the head here at the moment in a grand view of the Cumbrian Hills.
Oh, lovely. Stop rubbing my nose in it. I'm stuck in a studio,
Well, a little bit of advice for anybody, and there will be quite a few, going to renew what we refer to as road tax.
Ah, yes, vehicle tax, yeah.
Yeah, vehicle tax. Well, it's a road tax. But if you're going to do it, not by post or by, online, digital.
Online, yeah.
I've just been up to the test centre now to renew mine, which is due at the end of this month. And the first one said, "Do you want to do it online?" I said, "No." And then the next one come to the counter and she said, "Do you want to do it online?" No. And then I got the form was there, everything. Have you got your insurance? Well, all the years I've been going to the post office, I've never had to produce. I did once before and said, we don't need that. It's already on the form what your insurance is. But this one was adamant I had to have the insurance. Luckily enough, I had the feeling this was going to happen and I brought my insurance with me. So anybody that's going up there with their form to get their road tax, make sure you take vehicle information with you.
That's interesting, how, because I mean, I've renewed my road tax online previously, but when I've actually bought a new vehicle and I've gone up to get it taxed for the first time, they do normally ask for a copy of your insurance certificate, don't they? I suppose.
Yeah, well, that was maybe for the first time, but previously I've gone to the post office, walked in, the girl said, bang, 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 and printed the new tax disc. Yeah. I'm going to have to wait 10 days for this one to come through to me now, which is costing postage, costing envelopes, and costing time, staff. So I'm having to wait 10 days for my new tax disc to come through.
Howard, how would you feel if the Isle of Man finally took the step, and it's probably going to cost money? Of course, the UK, they've done away with tax discs now, and it's all digital. Is that a bit too far, do you think?
I think it's farcical because the first year they lost 38 million and they've been continuing losing money ever since. At least with the colour-coded tax discs that we have to display by law, anybody walking along the promenade, your wardens, your police entrance, can see just by the colour that tax disc is either old or renewed. And if you haven't got one, it's only digital, you're going to have to go down the line of going through your computer and then get through and see. And then, in the meantime, that car could have gone. You wouldn't have known any different.
Good point.
But at least if you have it there in the window and it can be seen, then is an offence being committed. And what's it cost? That traffic, no policeman's there anyway. Well, this morning's effort was, when I turned around to go out and the queue was out the door then, people waiting to get their tax. And it's generally at the end of the month of each month, so they're going to get this 12 months a year when people are going up to renew their road tax.
So basically, it's a warning for others. Make sure that you've possibly got your insurance certificate on you just in case.
It's relevant because it's going to be another journey otherwise.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to one chap outside. Now, I don't know why this was. He's come from Ramsey to get his tax. He said, because I can't get it in Ramsey. I can't buy it in Ramsey because they're not doing any of the post offices. Maybe there is a place up there, I don't know. But he had come into Douglas to get his road tax and then going back to Ramsey.
Well, if anyone knows from Ramsey where there's a place where you can do your road tax, let us know. I'd probably imagine, Howard, that the answer would be that possibly you can do it online. And of course, if you don't want to do it online, then you can come into Douglas and do it in person. And that's possibly the way a lot of things have gone. It's the same with banking, isn't it? In terms of how they've rationalised banking services in the north, or you can go online, isn't it? Rightly or wrongly.
Well, I don't do any online.
Yeah.
Well, this was the thing this morning, and as I say, previously, for many, many years, I've just walked into the post office and walked out with all the relevant paperwork that was needed. And this morning, I've walked out, luckily enough, brought my insurance. I've walked out with nothing in my hand, and I'm sitting in the car here now with a tax that's due to expire at the end of this month.
Okay. Well,
also, you mentioned the census.
Oh, yes,
I rang up yesterday onto the website that you're supposed to go to fill it in, and there's no form there. So I rang the number that was on the letter I got.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're not putting that on till Sunday.
Well, I suppose from their perspective, what they'll probably say is that it's meant to be a snapshot in time of what the Isle of Man, who's on the Isle of Man at that point, the date of the census, at the 26th. So I suppose,
These are only frequently asked questions that's on their website at the moment. And you don't get anything there saying that the census form will be digitally produced on Sunday. So, in other words, you shut the system down and you're still none the wiser. And the fella said to me, never thought of that.
Well, at least you've shared the information with everybody else now, Howard, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, but be careful with the road tax. That's all I say.
Brilliant. Thanks so much there, Howard. Much appreciated. As he points out there, Howard, lovely to chat to you. That if you're going to get your road tax, you will need a copy of your insurance. We're talking about the census there. If you've received your census letter, thank you very much to it was Charlie who sent me this. He sent me a copy of his census letter and says, please can you highlight the mistake that most people will probably have in their letter. In the middle of the census letter is the web address that you've got to go to. And at the end of the web address, someone's put a full stop. Now, if you type that full stop into your web address, it won't work. Because, of course, full stops mean something when you're typing into the World Wide Web. So do not use the full stop at the end, otherwise it won't work. So the address you're looking for is gov.im/census26. Do not add the full stop that's on the end of it in the middle of the census letter if that's on the letter you've received. I checked mine. It's on mine. It's obviously on Charlie's one here. It might be on yours as well. So the census, it's Sunday the 26th. It's a snapshot in time, so they need to know, who you are, where you are, what you were doing effectively on that point in time. Who's on the Isle of Man on Sunday the 26th of April. So they can gather the data that they base a lot of public services on. So it'll be gov.im/census26. You can find the information there online. Do not add a full stop at the end like is on your letter. Otherwise, you might think the website's not working. And, of course, we'd like you to think the website's working, so that's the main thing. Do you have an opinion on the census? Okay. 66 13 68. Do let me know. Let's go through some of your texts, shall we? The only way we can get our island safe and know who is here is passport control in and out. Please walk through Strand Street and pick out a local voice if you can. Well, yeah. I'm not going to go down the route as to whether you're local or not. Okay. I've been here since the age of 6, so I'm still a come over. Okay. Whether you say that. In your text there, 527, you're saying the only way we can get our island safe is to know who's here and pick out a local voice as if non-local voices are unsafe. So I don't really give that comment much credence. Now, in terms of passport control, well, we're not our own separate nation. We're a crown dependency. We're within the British Isles that currently, no, we have free movement. And if you want to talk about full independence, my word, that's a bigger debate. 495 says, what happens if you don't do the census form? Stay out of my business, please. The census form is a legal requirement, believe it or not. If you don't fill out the census form, you can actually be prosecuted for it. So there's your answer. Okay, but in terms of the census, it's there for legitimate reasons. Okay, you might be one of these people who just lives off the internet and believes there's a conspiracy in absolutely everything in life, but how are you expecting Manx Care to know how many people they're meant to be caring for on the island? How many doctors and nurses? And the things we complain there's not enough of, you've got to know how many people there are here to do so. And how do you expect them to do that if they don't do a count? That's what the census is, it's a count. So there you go. Let's have a look at this. Texter 100. I went to renew my son's provisional licence at the main post office in Douglas and was told you can't do it here anymore, so either print out a form or do it online. You can't renew a provisional licence online, so I printed out the form, filled it in and was told you have to go to Tremode. The office in Tremode is tiny and was full. What a stupid idea, because it's just one of many from this government. I also live in Ramsey, so travelling to Douglas is not ideal. That is a very good point, 7100, is that, if you're going to tell everyone to go online, then you don't actually offer the service online. Well, there's a problem there. Pam, in sunny Ramsey. Oh, glad it's sunny Ramsey. It should be sunny anywhere today, Pam. Says that census forms are extremely helpful for anyone like me who does their family history. Yeah, that's a good point, of course, because the census, you can look back and find, generations upon generations of your family that were registered in the census at the time. It's only the modern-day internet that's got us into the world of conspiracy theories looking into everything, isn't there? Let's have a look. 762. It sounds like the Manx hide-and-seek champions idea to take away the tax disc facility from the post office is an idea of sheer genius. Well done, Stu Peters. And no, you can't get a tax disc in Ramsey, so a drive to Douglas is a waste of time. A waste of time and fuel, and it's not very green, is it? I should point out Stu Peters, of course, is the chair of the Isle of Man Post Office, in case you think he's just picking one random politician or not. Thank you to S, who says, years ago, when I used to tax my car via the post office, they always required the insurance, so I don't know why Howard's didn't. Well, I did point that out in terms of the requirement for insurance. I've always required insurance, but Howard did comment that apparently there was a copy on the system, so I don't understand how the system works. They might have taken a scanned copy. There might have been a copy provided by his insurer directly. I'm not sure. Texter 110 says, you can blame Stu Peters for all this road tax fiasco. Can I? Give me more details. Once again, I know he's chair of the post office, but if you can tell me why exactly it's his fault, I'd be interested. What else have we got here? It's very quiet on the phone today, by the way. 66 13 68. You all out sunbathing, enjoying maybe a pina colada by the pool. And Desmond says ID should only be required coming into the island. Now, this was brought up, I think, yesterday with Andy, wasn't it, on the Mannin Line? Now, I can see your point. If it's about keeping us safe, we're only interested in the people coming into the island. Surely going off the island is ruled by Westminster, because they'd be interested to know who's going into their island. And this is a local initiative. However, there is a point of where if you've got people coming to the island, you also want to know when they're going, effectively, as well. So the only way to track that, I suppose, is ID at both ends, as it were. Marie says, as a small island, we should have proper border controls to keep the undesirables out. What do you class as the undesirables, Marie? Because we had a text before about people saying there's no local voices down Strand Street. So what purpose are you seeing this being used for? What do you class as undesirable? Okay. Fran says, maybe the barbed wire fence that's around Douglas Port is from Manx National Heritage, harking back to the Second World War internment camp days on Douglas Prom. You laugh, Fran, you laugh, but, let's be honest, it was during the war that you had to produce ID on demand. Are we going back to that point? But, yeah, I don't think it's M&H that are putting up barbed wire, but thank you very much. And Simon up north follows up on Howard's comment, saying, as far as I remember, it's always been a requirement to show proof of insurance when taxing a vehicle. Thank you very much for that. And a couple more comments before we get back to the phone. So thank you to Peter. Says, Alex, the awful barbed wire around Douglas Seaport is actually keeping us inhabitants in. It's not about keeping people out. Yeah, thank you, Peter. Yes, nice to raise a smile. Right, we've got Bonzo, who's on line one, wants to talk about assisted dying and Manx voices. Hello, Bonzo.
Hello, yes. Somebody who was talking about going down Strand Street and essentially...
Local voices,
anyone who didn't have a local voice for local people in local shops, etc., was obviously somebody who had to be interned or something like that. Well, speaking as someone with an atypical voice, well, I are a Manxie because I'm a graduate at the Jane Crookall for a start. I did my time as an alumnus of Onken Primary, etc. But our family moved across in my teenage years, and I ended up in the deep south of England, where I picked up a teeny weeny bit of an accent.
Do you think that if we're being blunt about this, and I'm treading carefully for obvious reasons, do we think that the lack of local voices really isn't to do with people's voices? It's maybe the fact that actually a lot of people don't like the feeling of a more interconnected world where people are moving here, there and everywhere, and it brings up the word immigration again, doesn't it? Which a lot of the time it sprung fear through the Brexit debate, and it springs fear a lot of the time without any sort of grounds or any specific details.
Well, was it Boswell or Dr. Johnson, one of the two, who said that one Englishman has only to speak for another one to despise him.
Oh, that was in My Fair Lady, that one, wasn't it? Yes, it was a line from Henry Higgins, where why can't the English teach their children how to speak? That was what was used, yes.
Oh yeah, but that I think is from either Dr. Johnson or Boswell.
Oh yes, no, so, it's a quote.
Yeah, Yeah. So yeah, it's very much that kind of thing. I wonder if these kind of things happened in days gone by, where of course there used to actually be distinct accents around the island, and people would go, "Oh, he's from Derby," or "Oh, he's a Govag," etc.
In fairness, Bonzo, I'm born on Merseyside, and I don't particularly sound like your classic Scouser, do I? Really?
No. I mean, Tom Baker didn't exactly sound like classic Scouser either.
No, that is true. Anyway, you also wanted
or indeed Elizabeth Sladen.
No, that's true. But you also wanted to talk about assisted dying, didn't you?
Yes, assisted dying. Of course, today the Lords are busy making sure that the UK's assisted dying legislation dies, essentially, because they will talk it out of parliamentary time as the session of Parliament now ends. And so I think anyone who thinks, such as Dr. Anderson, that just putting some more amendments into our assisted dying legislation and then sending it back will have it coming here very soon so we can implement it. That's for the birds.
And the other thing we should point out, by the way, that because I know that there was someone on the other day, Bonzo, who was going on about how the House of Lords has thrown it out and everything else. The UK, it's not gone to the UK Parliament and it's been thrown back. It's the Ministry of Justice. So what they've effectively said, and this is a very sweeping statement, but it's a case of, actually, we don't think this is good legislation. And they've sent it back because they said that it's missing bits. It's almost as if you take away the emotional side of what is a very emotionally driven bill, it splits people's opinions on both sides, but it also makes you question, are we just producing bad legislation and effectively our homework's been handed back to us?
Well, going around on matters of life and death, producing a bill that's saying, we'll legalise our ability to do life and death, but any sort of protections or legislation, we'll just do those in the secondary legislation sometime. That's all right. No, that's appalling legislation and should never have been contemplated. But the thing is that in UK, now that this bill that's been going through Parliament has fallen, and essentially the government was rather waiting for it to fall, such legislation simply won't be recommended for royal assent anywhere in the British Isles, because it's too politically bad, having managed to block that which was going through Parliament, and to allow it somewhere else.
I think
it was always that. It was always, if it wasn't going to be passed through Westminster, it sure as heck wasn't going to be allowed anywhere else.
It's going to be interesting to see it play out. And to finish on a slightly more lighter note, Bonzo, it was pointed out to me yesterday that obviously they're trying to make these amendments to the assisted dying bill, and it was a case of we can do that quicker than we can actually do a business case for a horse tram. So, it shows that the level of focus that the horse tram business case must be getting compared to assisted dying. And I think someone said that with the tongue very firmly in their cheek to me.
Yes, yes, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely to speak to you, Bonzo. I've got a couple more people on the line, but have a great weekend.
And you.
Cheers. Bye. Lovely to speak to Bonzo there. Vivian's on the line, wanted to talk about the census. Good afternoon, Vivian. How are you?
Good afternoon, Alex. Long time no speak.
I was going to say, how are you keeping down north there?
I'm alive and kicking.
Well, that's what we all of us hope for most days. Are you ready for your census on Sunday night?
Right. Because I can't see very well, I rang them up and said, what do I do? Because I haven't got a census form. And I was told that they rang me back and they said, if you ring us on the 6th of May at 1 p.m, we will fill in your census form with you.
Oh, well, that sounds like a pragmatic approach. And have you booked that in?
Oh, yes, I've booked it in, but I just thought It's a week after census. I could be dead and buried.
In fairness, I'd like to think people in the office are maybe being a bit more sort of, positive and optimistic about the fact that you'll still be there a week after census.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying.
Yes. I mean, I suppose the difficulty is, playing devil's advocate, that they've obviously got to try and get a snapshot of in time, and a larger population, we know about the, online or not online, a large proportion of the population will do it online and will do it fine. There are portions of the population who will want to do it on paper, which is fine. And then maybe for yourself, when there's a case of people who need assistance, there is limited resources for people to come out, and they're going to get to you when they can, I suppose. So that's hopefully...
I just thought I'd comment to you because, people are saying all sorts of things about the census, but it is, as you just said, a snapshot of the number of population on the island.
Exactly. And Vivian, I hope you make them a cup of tea and a biscuit when they come round to do your form with you.
Oh, they don't come round. They phone you up.
Oh, do they? Oh, well, there we go. You can have the cup of tea and biscuit yourself then, even better.
And you're only wanting the chocolate biscuit and a cup of tea, aren't you?
Always with me. Yeah, not so much chocolate.
Well, if you don't come to see me, you won't get one.
Okay, Viv, that's the deal. Lovely to speak to you. Take care.
Take care, Alex. Bye.
Always love to speak to Viv there. But actually, that's very good. So if you are, in all seriousness, one of these people who will find trouble filling in a census form, not necessarily online or in paper, it's good to hear there that there are options, and there are staff that will ring you up on a certain date and time and will go through the census form with you, because it is a very important thing to do. It's not snooping. It's a case of, if you want services and you want, the government to, you can't keep ringing the Mannin Line and complaining that, we've got not enough doctors, not enough dentists and things like this. Well, if you don't let them count the number of people that are here, how are they going to plan for it? So it's good to hear that number from Vivian there. You'll find it on your letter. If you give them a call, they might be able to help you out. Right, we're going to chat to Robert after this. This is something for your diary.
Hello, I'm BethSB.com, Manx Radio's head of biker podcasts. In this general election year, Manx Radio will have an almost interminable number of programmes in the run-up to the big day when you can choose who to bin off. And for the first time, we're also hosting a live show aimed at helping all those tens of young and first-time voters, or those who've just forgotten, through the complex issue of voting. That is, confirming your name and address, stepping into a cubicle and putting an X next to the name of someone you think isn't going to be completely useless. So join us at IM1 Voting for Dummies, live at the Peel Centenary Centre from 7:30pm on the 16th of May. Tickets available online at centenarycentre.com from Celtic Gold in Peel or Oma in Ramsey. Voting for Dummies, laughing in the face of democracy.
Admit it. You've been staring at those same four walls for far too long, haven't you? Let's give your home the glow-up it's been waiting for. Here at Lifestyle Furniture, we've handpicked the dreamiest collection of designer paints and luxury wallpapers from Zoffany, Sanderson, Harlequin and more. Plus beautiful curtains, blinds and fabrics from celebrated brands like Ashley Wilde. A fresh transformation with Lifestyle Furniture. Snugborough Trading Estate, Union Mills. Open 7 days a week.
So, June, you finally took my advice and went for Spectrum windows for your home improvements.
Well, with their quality and price, I couldn't refuse. Along with great service from planning to completion, you get all the latest innovations in roofing and glazing.
Oh, June, don't tell the missus that yours are better than ours.
Oh, don't worry, Jeffrey. Yours still look as good as new. They're still A-rated and they're guaranteed for 10 years.
Visit Spectrum Windows, the showroom, Derby Road, Ramsey, or call 817777.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
Join Kell Developments on Saturday and Sunday at their exclusive Oatlands Road Andreas show home opening. Discover high-spec modern new builds, quality finishes, energy-efficient features and speak with the developers. Show home open 10 to 2 every Saturday and Sunday or by appointment.
Road racing returns to the island and Manx Radio Motorsport is an essential part of it. As the official TT Broadcast Media partner, our live coverage brings every qualifying and race session to the island and the world on air and online. So with airtime, sponsorship and digital advertising options, it's officially your best chance to reach a global motorsports audience. Contact our sales team now on 682-620 or at sales@manxradio.com. Manx Radio Motorsport, the best biking station in the world. Manx Radio!
Alex on Mannin Line through until 1 o'clock this afternoon when Beth Espy is here with 1 to 3. And a few more of your messages quickly. Steve, we were talking about vehicle tax before. Steve says, I did my road tax this week, got my tax sticks in the post yesterday, but when filling in the form online, nowhere did it ask for an insurance number, company or copy of certificate. That's interesting. So is it a requirement or not? I'll have to look into this, okay? But thank you very much to Stephen Ramsey, who says, Hi, Alex. Online road tax system surprisingly works well. I taxed my vehicle online. It instantly showed taxed on government website and disc came through within a day. Oh, there we go, Steve. Glad to know that's working well for you. Thank you very much to, who's this? Paulie, who says, will pubs and restaurants be doing the census? You can guarantee that thousands of illegals will be out on the night of the census. When you say illegals, we don't have immigration to the Isle of Man, so you are right to be here. You don't have to get a visa to get into the country. It's not like the UK where you've got illegal migration. But I'm aware that the census is the responsibility is on the person to do it, not the actual establishment. Okay, so bear that in mind. And thank you to, who's this? Jay, who says, I bet less than 1% of adult passengers currently travel without photo ID. And I think it would be more than 1%. Without ID. I get your point. Sorry, I get your point. I took that the wrong way around. Yeah, because most of us, especially if you're going on board, you normally have a driving licence in your wallet, don't you? So there's going to be something. Let's have a look. Instead of a census, says AJ, can they not approach the Treasury and ask how many pay taxes or are on benefits for gauging the number of kids approach the Department of Education? It sounds like a very long-winded way of doing it. I mean, the census costs about 400,000 to do the census, and this is nothing new. This is something that most countries have done for, hundreds of years. You can go back into the census and see family records and everything. If you can give me a reason as to why, AJ, they should do it that way as opposed to doing it the easier way, let me know. It's always easy to criticise. Come up with a new solution if you think there's a problem. Whenever I get a tax disc from the post office, they always wanted to see up-to-date insurance and wouldn't issue a new disc without it, says Mark. Yeah, that's my experience as well. So I think there's a bit of a confusion here. I'll have to find out. Do you require your insurance certificate or not to get road tax? And if they don't require it online, do they get the information somewhere else to make sure that they're taxing an insured vehicle? I don't know. Robert's been waiting patiently. Hello, Robert. How are you today?
Hi, Alex. How you doing?
I'm not bad.
I agree with you. Come up with a solution if there's a problem. I've been doing that for some time. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, if I could put a slant on it, a bit of a Gaelic slant on it or a Manx slant on it,
go on then,
would be if we were ever to change from a Crown dependency to a Crown dominion, similar to Canada. And I was talking to June Watterson on the bus, bit of a free and open conversation, but, just between two people, really, nothing special.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and he said, well, it goes back to the Normandy fiefdom laws of the conquest and things like that of Normandy and stuff like that. And I said, well, my family used to come from Normandy, so I could have reversed that, And he looked at him and he looked at him and he goes, ooh, that was interesting. But I don't have the confidence at the moment to take it forward. But if anyone's listening, they could take it up. If we have any, chest-beating Manx people.
What you're saying is that you by family relationship, you could possibly be our supreme leader, Robert. Who knows? Quietly sitting there.
No, I'm a humble man. I'm not at all.
But no,
maybe a Bitcoin king, but I'm not a humble. I'm nothing else than that, to be honest with you.
No worries. Thanks very much, Robert, for chatting anyway, and hope you have a nice weekend. Enjoy the sun out there.
All right. Bye
Cheers,
now.
bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
There we go. Yes, Robert could quietly, with the fiefdom laws, could be in charge. I'm going to have to brush up on this, but effectively, the reason we're a Crown dependency goes back to the day of the Stanleys, didn't it? Because we were owned effectively, and then the Stanleys handed ownership of the island to the Crown, the British Crown. So effectively, we're a self-governing Crown dependency. But yeah, you could spend some time in the Manx Museum and the House of Mannin and things like this, and you'll find the details on that. A few more comments of yours coming in. I've got someone here, Jude, who's complaining about having to collect their prizes from Manx Radio. Regardless of where, gift horses a mouth. If you don't want to have your prize, fine, we'll give it to someone else. Here we go. Big Johnny Ramsey says, my grandchildren informed me they had a lesson in technology class about wind-generated energy. They said it was incredible how much clean energy they produce. We need to push Erie Stain as a priority. Thank you very much, Big John. Big John is a regular on Mannin Line, texting in, putting forward his point on the fact that he's very for green energy and wind energy. And it is, encouraging to see, isn't it, that Manx Utilities now are looking at solar power. Like the idea of being put on, there is a proposal for the roof of the NSC. There is thoughts of things like on the reservoir at Sulby. And it would also stop a lot of the evaporation as well. So there are lots of different ways. Let's have a look. I'm sick of feeling embarrassed for local people. With listening to adverts on Manx Radio with people using ridiculous Manx accents, such as the Hearth advert, anyone listening from the outside of the island must think we're a bunch of hillbillies. When you say ridiculous Manx accents, I had this argument on Monday. Someone complained about a feature on my show called Manx at the Movies, and I should get a proper Manx accent, and it was Phil Gaughan doing it. So there is comments that come into Manx Radio. You should have more Manx accents on Manx Radio. And then people turn around and go, well, we've got Phil Gaughan. They go, oh, that's too Manx. So, what would you like? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Thank you very much to Texter 095 who says, taxed one of my cars at the Governor's Hill post office. He said, don't need insurance certificate. It's on his computer screen. So went to tax the second car at the test centre. They insisted I had an insurance certificate with me. So how can a sub post office have a copy and the main post office doesn't? The mind boggles. That is interesting, although you went to the test centre, so that's not the post office. But still, what if anyone knows the answer to this, we're going to have to dig into this as to whether you do require your insurance documents or not. And final one for the moment. Mike, he says, tax debate. For the last few years, I've never had to produce my insurance details, as they said they knew I had it. So it obviously seems there is a database available. Thank you very much, Mike, for that. Right, in a moment, we're going to be chatting to Julian.
As a long-established firm, Mann Benham offer a comprehensive range of legal services assisting individuals and businesses, from sole traders to the island's largest employers. Mann Benham have built up a reputation for giving a fast, efficient, cost-effective service with a personal edge. From buying and selling property to drawing up leases, employment matters, contracts and more. Call Mann Benham for your free consultation on 639 350.
Mann Benham, here for you.
Do you know, Dave, the Q Plus counter always has just what I need. Whatever plumbing job I'm working on, whether a state-of-the-art bathroom or the latest heating system, Q Plus always help. With extensive supplies, friendly, knowledgeable service and great prices, it really is the one-stop shop for trade and DIY customers alike. And if they don't have what you want in stock, they'll find it for you. See for yourself. Just take a look at Q Plus on Facebook.
Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Henry Bloom Noble Healthcare Trust has been supporting and enhancing healthcare for everyone on the Isle of Man for more than 120 years. We are proud of the difference we've made and dedicated to continuing this work into the future. Learn more about our work at hbnhealthcaretrust.org.im.
This advert is brought to you by Kell Properties.
Spring is in the air, so it's time to treat yourself to a powerful new Honda at Riley's Garden Centre. Yes, right now, Riley's have massive savings across Honda's lawn and garden range. Save up to £300 on robotic mowers, £345 on petrol lawnmowers, and £785 on lawn tractors. T's and C's apply. Open 7 days a week on Cool Road, Braddon, or browse online at rileys.co.im. Riley's Garden Centre. Everything for the great outdoors.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
Okay, it's 1:45, and a few messages in. Oh, thanks very much to Daft. She's actually put me straight on this. Okay, I do need to brush up on my Manx history, yeah. I apologise on this. It was the Duke of Athol, not the Stanley family, who sold the rights of the lordship of the Isle of Man to the British Crown in 1765 for £70,000. And apparently there's more on the Tynwald website. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, of all the things I normally gen up on Mannin Line, my Manx history isn't normally one that I require. Thank you very much to 223, who says, Douglas Promenade is a mess, despite all the multi-millions spent on it. Why are the government not getting the contractors back to rectify their shoddy work? It is. It's disgusting. Some of the crossings are all failing. The concrete's cracked. It was a mess, and we never got it finished. It says the contractors were Oldham Construction, taken over by Colas. So what's going on here? Something stinks. I don't think they were taken over by Colas. I think Oldham Construction, from memory, were a part of Colas. I think they're now Manx Rock. They've rebranded. But that in terms of the promenade, yeah, it was a project that is not finished. I mean, let's just say the government or the DOI minister said that we'll be bringing the business case for the horse trams to be finished back to Tynwald for May's Tynwald. Now, the closing date for the Register of Business was the 21st of April, and there's no business case on there yet, from what I can find online. So, Minister Crookall, the elusive Minister Crookall, can we have any answers to where it is? Chris Thomas, Treasury Minister, the man who in an email has stated that if he was in a position of power, he would have the horse trams finished. He's the Treasury Minister now. Where is this business case? Especially bearing in mind that they spent the money on something else. But yeah, you're right. 223, Douglas Prom is a mess. Okay, the officer who's in charge, that was their purview, has been promoted, moved on in the department, and yet we're left with roads that are still crumbling in places. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe bringing it up with your MHK. It's an election year. Make them actually give you an answer. Thank you very much to 382, says the census won't reach all the flats on Prospect Hill and Domain Road. They said if you're going to start with all of Upper Douglas, good luck. It will only be the house owners that will complete it. Well, in fairness, if you're on the electoral register, they will be sending you a letter, and it's a legal requirement. It's your responsibility to fill it in. It's not someone else's responsibility to fill it in. And John says, Alex, Paul Crane's immigration from foreign countries afar. Be careful what you wish for. Look across the water. Once the demographics have changed, there's no going back. But once again, you're putting that down to nationality and race. Okay? Whether that's a whole different point as to whether you want a safe island when we're talking about immigration. But Julian wants to talk immigration as well. He's on the line. Hello, Julian. How are you?
All right, mate. Yeah, this weather's fab, isn't it?
Oh, I love it.
Really
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I bet you'd be getting some good passenger numbers on the train and stuff.
I would love to be. We don't open until May. You watch, it'll start raining then.
Well, yes, that's true. But down here, there seems to be they're packing them in there down in Port Erin and up in Douglas whenever I see them.
Good. That's what we like, isn't it?
Yeah, just to talk about immigration,
yes.
The Caervai Wind Farm and also Mulvannin. I've heard Naomi Atkins talking about taking care of endangered species and red-listed birds. I don't see how that tallies with having large wind turbines on the island, especially when we've got one of the rarest in the world, the leucistic hen harrier, the one that's white.
Yep.
So, I mean, I saw that very close to, just on the top of the Slough, actually, about 4 days ago, just hovering around. So, it's close by there. And also, I seem to remember reading in this week's Independent, the Manx Independent, that 86% of our biosphere area is the sea area, which, of course, 12 miles out all the way round.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that going to do when you've got almost 90 shard high turbines, larger than anything that anyone's seen in the world, in that biosphere? Are we still going to be called a UNESCO biosphere nation when we've got 90 of the probably what you would call the largest wind? I don't know, what would you call it? I mean, it's
they're wind turbines, aren't they? Yeah,
it's a station, isn't it? It's a generation station.
In terms, though, of the biosphere, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'll put it back as a question to you, is that whilst you think, could we still call ourselves UNESCO Biosphere Nation if we have wind turbines, how does it look on the burning of fossil fuels in terms of maintaining biosphere?
Well, my view is the more the better. The more CO2 that gets pumped out, the planet's been greening at 15% greater every decade than it was before. So the plants certainly like it. Immigration. I noticed Paul Crane talking about we must have people brought over to the island.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him coming up with any other solutions, though. It just seems that that's the only answer.
Well, in fairness to Paul Crane, one thing we should point out here, there is a lot of people, I'm not saying yourself, but a lot of people who have this idea that MLCs are the same as MHKs, and whereas MLC, it's a legislative council is a scrutinising chamber. They're meant to scrutinise legislation to make sure that it doesn't get sent back effectively and it's all in order. So he's not necessarily proposing something. He's just he produces this atlas and he produces you with the facts, not necessarily solutions to deal with them. But how would you suggest that we address the population challenges?
Well, one of the first things is he calls himself a demographer, and on your news item, what about dilution of the Isle of Man culture? If you're bringing over thousands of people to the island, what's that going to do to the culture? People will start complaining about the house they buy on the TT course, and we need to get rid of the TT. That's happened in the past as well.
But surely that is how cultures grow and change, because really there's no indigenous people to the Isle of Man. We're either Irish Celts or Norwegian Vikings. There's always been immigration, and your culture it gets enriched by new people sort of keeping it alive and moving it to the next generation, surely.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I could take you back to Viking times. Our culture's got a huge amount of Viking influences, Snaefell, Tynwald itself, and they were invaders, they were immigrants.
Yeah, but you've got an amount of people being brought into the UK, into the common travel area, unprecedented since 1066. We've got more people being brought in now than has been in the last 1,000 years or more. So, it's the rate at the same time. And, you've got this other thing. Everyone's noticing that the Isle of Man workforce, 20% of it is in government. So the taxpayers are paying for 20% of the workforce. Is that sustainable? Especially as it seems that it's ever increasing. And as far as you were saying about, solutions, things to encourage young people to stay here. I mean, the nightlife is not quite what it was in the 80s and 90s.
No.
You've also got regulations. You can't do chicken over here anymore because of regulations. It's not economically viable. Well, we control the regulations, so we could make it economically viable.
What did you say? We can't do chicken?
You can't do chicken meat on the island. It's all imported now. I think the last 12 years. I mean, is something that they don't even seem to look at. Freight charges for businesses on the island, they're not subsidising that at the steam packet, and I would say that's one of the most important things to do, especially if you get rid of all the vanity projects like Caervai. You'd save, and there's 18 million on that Ramsey seawall that's disappeared now.
In terms, Julian, I've just had some facts sent to me here. You're talking about obviously Caervai and the biosphere status, and everybody, I've heard Eddie as well, always talking about birds. So if you're anti-wind turbine, they come up with the dangers of birds and things like this. But fossil fuels significantly harm birds through pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change. With mortality from fossil fuels, directly and indirectly, goes up to about 140,000 birds per year die. This is facts from the United States because of fossil fuels. So surely, depending on which way your bias is and which argument you have, there is going to be an effect on nature with whatever side you choose.
Is that 140,000 globally?
No, 140,000 in the US.
Which is 3 million square miles. That doesn't sound like a lot of birds dying from it, does it? I mean, how many billions of birds are there in America?
Yeah, but once again, you can pick and choose your stats to solve your argument, is what I'm pointing out.
Well, this is a question I asked Andy a little while ago. Our power station at Pulrose, as far as I'm aware, they've got rid of 99% of SO2, NOx. They've got all the filters on there. 2003, it was still, they've even improved on that since. How much pollution is coming out of Pulrose, actually? Is there somebody that can text you right now and say, what is the pollution output of that power station in Douglas?
Well, as we've got a minute left, I think they'd do really well to get it in. But yeah, if anyone could send us the information, manninline@manxradio.com, it would be good to know what is the actual, what comes out of that chimney at Pulrose.
I suspect it's a bit of CO2 and some water vapour because they've got rid of everything else. It even says it in the specifications, nitrogen oxide scrubbers, SO2 reducing. They've got all the stuff there. And if they were to upgrade it, they'd drop it again because, things have changed a lot in the last 13 years with, the emissions controls on the latest ones. So, you don't even need to upgrade them with new burners and that type of thing. So I don't know. It's very overstated, all this emissions thing, and I'd like to know exactly how polluting it is.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks very much, Julian. Lovely to speak to you. Enjoy the weather over the weekend.
Yeah, you too, mate. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye. I'm going to very quickly, because I've got about a minute left, I'm going to try and quickly have a chat with... I'm going to try and have a chat. There we go. With Malcolm. Hello, Malcolm. How are you? Sorry for keeping you online there.
Hello. No problem at all. My complaint is that everything has to be online these days.
Yes.
And a lot of people have not got it. And I think it's ageism. It's like discrimination against older people.
Do you feel that by offering the paper alternative as well, that they're trying to, cover both bases?
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's like the tax, you tax for your car now instead of just going in the post office like you used to. It's everything is going online. And if you're an older person, you're being picked on, basically.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Malcolm. I'm sorry I'm going to have to cut you off because we're running out of time. But Malcolm's point there, yeah. Is it ageist to keep pushing stuff online? It is the big digital debate, isn't it? Thank you very much for your calls and your texts this afternoon. We do read them all. Andy will be back on the Mannin Line on Monday. Stick around. Beth Espy is up next with 1 to 3. I shall be back. When am I back? Oh, yeah, Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Enjoy the weather. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Ta-da. Thanks to Ben.